Welcome into Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. We've got a great episode for you today on what is St. Patrick's Day, one of my favorite holidays of the year. I'm a big beers guy, even though my name's Connor. Not technically Irish, but hey, I can still celebrate anyway. So, first off, we're going to go through what the Phillies lineup should be, in my mind, now that Kyle Schwarber is officially a part of the team. We'll run down that 1 to 9, especially now that there's also a DH. In the second segment, I'm going to introduce something really cool that we're going to be doing over the next couple shows, a little bit of a bracket challenge because March Madness also starts today, first round of the NCAA tournaments going on. And finally, in stepping off, we've got a very special St. Patrick's Day themed Mount Rushmore, where we're going to go through the top Irish players to ever play for the Phillies. Actually, a pretty good list. I was surprised some of the names that pop up on there. We'll break all that down. You can argue with my rankings, but I mean, how many of us really know off the top of our heads all the Irish players that play for the Phillies? We'll get into it. A lot of great stuff. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Now let's jump right into it.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How about that intro, by the way? I'm always jamming to that. So that's some good work put together by Locked On folks back at the network. So anyway, the Phillies lineup. This is the exciting part. And I know I said over the past couple shows, these are the exciting parts. Well, it's you got to forgive me. We've been without baseball for a while now. So knowing that it's back and knowing that we have this stuff to talk about is great. And on top of that, the Phillies just made what I think to be a great signing in Kyle Schwarber. If you want to hear my thoughts on that, you can jump into yesterday's episode where I break that down. But now it's lineup time. So there are two lineups I'm going to give you. The first one is my primary lineup that I like the best with Kyle Schwarber now as a Philadelphia Philly. Let's jump right into that. So there have been some rumblings about Schwarber batting leadoff. I think that's a little bit weird considering the setup of this team. Now, they don't have a true leadoff hitter, but looking at the other guys, I think there's a better suited option for leadoff. I'm going to go with Gene Segura batting in that one spot. I know he's had trouble there when the Phillies have tried him at leadoff in the past. You'd like to see him, I don't know, maybe in the 2-hole, maybe back at like 5 or 6 or something like that, just to give him a little bit more chance to use some of the power that he does have for a middle infielder. But the year he had last year at the plate, he's been over 300 in batting average yearly for a couple years in his career, mostly the ones where he was out in Seattle before coming to Philadelphia. But I have faith in him to be the best leadoff hitter on this roster, even if he's not a great leadoff hitter by MLB standards. I think he's the best option for the Phillies as the roster is currently constructed. So for me, pencil into that one spot, Gene Segura. In the 2-hole, oh man, JT Realmuto seems like the perfect 2-hole hitter for this team. He's got quickness, especially for a catcher, but he's got quickness in general for a major league player. He's a gaps hitter, which is what you want. He can score Gene Segura. If Gene Segura singles, JT would have no trouble scoring him himself, not just with a long ball, but with those deep alleyways in Citizens Bank Park, you know, the weird triangle in left field where you can put it off of the like the chainmail fence and right over the out-of-town scoreboard. A lot of weird bounces out there. JT can run. And he hits pretty well for, well, he didn't last year, but he's going to hit pretty well for average again. Going to be right around the 260, 270 mark. I like JT to slot into the number 2 spot in the lineup there. Well, that's where a lot of people thought Schwarber was going to be, one of those top 2 spots. You want to have your best hitters in one of the top 3 spots, but I don't have any issues with Gene or JT being up there. Now, this one is an inevitability. It's the most sure thing about the Philadelphia Phillies this year. On opening day and every day after that he plays, the player batting in the 3-hole for the Philadelphia Phillies will be reigning NL MVP Bryce Harper. It's why he wears 3 on his jersey. It's the perfect fit. Just don't overthink it. Put him in the 3-hole. Let him clear off those first 2 guys. Let him be your best player in what I think is, in the modern game, the most important position in the lineup. I think 3 is the most important position. You're still getting at bats every first inning, but you've got those RBI opportunities, ideally. I think that's got to be Harper, and I think you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who disagrees with that. Here's where it gets interesting. So who do you put in the 4-hole now? It's been JT Realmuto for a couple years because he does have a little bit of power, and his average can protect Bryce Harper. It could be Rhys Hoskins, who is a power hitter, who is a guy that's been in that cleanup spot before, who, while streaky, does have a lot of pop and can hit the ball out of the ballpark. Well, Kyle Schwarber, he's moving into that 4 hole for me. I'm putting him as the cleanup hitter. Now, here's the question. Is he the cleanup hitter as a DH, or is he the cleanup hitter as a left fielder? For me, what I'm doing is I'm playing Kyle Schwarber at DH. I think it's a safer option right now, and you'll hear why if they do this in the field. Now, it's experimental, and they very well could play Kyle Schwarber in left. But for me, I'm batting him fourth because of the power he brings. I think his on-base percentage is underrated. I think he gets on base better than a lot of people realize. Walked a lot last year during his great season. And even though that was the anomaly in his career, I think that's going to be something that he can continue in Philadelphia just because those 3 guys batting ahead of him are great. And the guy behind him is really good. In the 5 hole, I'm going to have Rhys Hoskins. I'm dropping him down a little bit. Normally he bats 4. Normally he bats 2. He's up near the top. Well, he could take a little bit of a step back. Maybe it'll help him with his consistency that we saw him struggle with last year. What it certainly will do is it'll take the pressure off him to be that main RBI guy after Harper. When you've got Schwarber there, Schwarber's going to have a bunch of RBIs for this team with Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, and Gene Segura batting ahead of him. Now, Rhys is an afterthought. You're like, if you're an opposing pitcher, you're like, man, just get me through Harper. But now they've got Schwarber. Just get me through Schwarber and hope he doesn't hit one 500 feet to straightaway right field. Okay, deep breath. I've gotten through those first 4 guys. Well, now Rhys Hoskins comes up, who is still a very, very, very good major league hitter. I mean, he comes up right side, left side. You get to flip that around with him and Schwarber. I like alternating handedness, which is nice. I think Rhys is a great fit in that 5 hole. So those ones are easy for me to put together. Now the question is, what are the 4 other spots? 6, 7, 8, and 9. Well, I'll tell you the guys who are going to fill them. Didi Gregorius is going to be your shortstop right now unless you make a big move. It could be Bryson Stott later in the season, but for now, it's Didi. Alec Bohm is going to be your third baseman. You got no other option at that position. He's going to be the guy there. Odubel Herrera right now looks like your starter at center field just because of veteranship. Matt Vierling could platoon with him, but Matt Vierling is going to be still technically a rookie, eligible for Rookie of the Year honors this year. He's a young player, so Odubel gets the nod there just by nature of being here longer. And then the question is, who do you play in left if Kyle Schwarber DHs? I think the Phillies would look at Moniak or Adam Hazley to play left field. But for me, I'm going to tab Matt Vierling. I'm going to get him more experience because I'm out on Hazley for sure. I'm halfway out on Mickey Moniak. So I'd rather see the kid, Matt Vierling, and they're all kind of kids. They're all young guys. But I'd rather see Matt Vierling play. So of those 4, how do we strike it out? I like Alec Bohm in the 6 hole. I want to get him more at-bats than anyone else I just mentioned. He needs to get back into the swing of things, and I think batting behind Kyle Schwarber, Rhys Hoskins back-to-back puts him in a great spot to do that rebound in 2022 that we've been talking about that we hope we see coming from. That's also added to the ability he should have, rather, to hit the ball out of the ballpark. He showed it in 2020. He showed some clutch hitting in 2020 as well, which means he should get more at-bats than these other guys. He's just got to prove it again in 2022. So fingers crossed that he does, but Alec Bohm is batting 6th for me. Batting 7th, I'm putting Odubel Herrera there. Herrera still has some pop. He's not going to be great average-wise. He's a 250 guy, and he'll make some boneheaded mistakes. He's going to strike out a good amount, too. He's going to strike out over 80 times. And his helmet's going to fall off when he does it. He's going to look goofy, and he's going to get booed. All of this stuff is going to happen. But as a 7-hole hitter, you could do worse. So I've got Odubel batting 7th. I've got Didi Gregorius batting 8th. Maybe. Last year was just like a major injury issue with that elbow problem that he had from opening day. And he rebounds, and being in the 8-hole gets him to see a lot of fastballs and show off some of that power that he showed in 2020. Still a nice left-handed bat. Like having that at the bottom of the lineup. That's great. And then finally, 9-hole, Matt Vierling, young kid, bring him up, put him in what normally would be the pitcher's spot, get him a lot of fastballs, get him low pressure at bats, and see what he does to work his way in. That's what I'm doing with the opening day lineup for the Phillies as currently constructed. But we've had a little bit of news, not really breaking news, but about an hour ago, it came out that the Phillies are still sniffing around Nick Castellanos. So what would this lineup look like if Castellanos comes in? I'm batting Segura first, still batting him leadoff. Then I'm batting Castellanos second, Harper third, Schwarber fourth. Then I'm going to go Realmuto fifth, Hoskins sixth. You can take Vierling out of it because we're going to play Castellanos in left field. Schwarber will DH. So that means we're going to go Bohm seventh, Gregorius eighth, Odubel Herrera batting ninth. And that lineup, let me tell you, folks, is absolutely killer. I would love to see that happen. Fingers crossed. So that's the ideal lineup if the Phillies make this move. But the first one, obviously, is where the lineup stands today on, February 16th? Is that today? Is it the 17th? Got to check my calendar here. 17th. I don't even know what day St. Patrick's Day is. Not very Irish of me. Good thing I'm not Irish, but don't tell anybody. All right, that's the lineups. Now, coming up next, I'm going to introduce a very fun bracket topic. I'll tell you the layout of it. It's going to be Twitter-centric, so I'm going to need feedback from you. And tell me what you want to see. So we'll have some entries. This isn't like the tournament where it's merit-based. I just want to hear what you guys are going to say, and I'm going to pick my favorites because, hey, I host. That's my right. All good. I'll explain all of that to you in just a second. First of all, I want to tell you about Mission Possible. Mission Impossible might be not having a beer on St. Patrick's Day. I got to go have one myself. But Mission Possible is a great read, a great listen from a great man. So are you ready to discover your purpose and leave an impact wherever you go? Mission Possible, written and read by New York Times best-selling author and athlete Tim Tebow. You guys all know Tim Tebow. Come on, man. Great athlete at Florida. Solid in the NFL, even though he got cut short a little bit. A baseball player. I mean, he's been in our lives forever if you're a sports fan. And now I want to encourage you to find your inspiration, pursue your purpose, and create a life for yourself that counts by checking out Mission Possible. Ignite a new spark in your life through this new inspirational listen. Mission Possible by Tim Tebow is available wherever audiobooks are sold. All right, so here's that new segment I'm talking about. It's going to take up a little bit of our time over the next couple weeks of episodes. We're going to do, because, as I said in the open, it's March Madness Day, and it will be for the next couple weeks. The NCAA college tournament's kicking off, and who doesn't love to put together a nice bracket of their own? I got cut short of the Philadelphia Sports Radio Personalities bracket this year. I'm in the NIT, I guess, or whatever. I must have lost in the playing game, but that's okay because now I can make my own bracket for you here on Locked On Phillies, so I'm not worried about that. My bracket that I want to find out, because I think history is a very important thing to constantly be looking back on, to enjoy, to revel in the nostalgia of the moments if we lived through them, and to learn about them if we didn't. And a great way to do that around this time of year, to frame it in a fun package that is the March Madness bracket, what I want to do is I want to put together an Elite Eight. I can't be doing like a 64-man bracket. I don't have time for that. I'd be taking away too much from all the great moves the Phillies are still going to do and all the storylines heading into opening day. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to solicit from you, Phillies fan. Yes, the one watching this, listening to this right now. I want you to reach out to me on Twitter at ConnorThomas975. You can see it down there. Or at LO_Phillies. Get at me. I'll put together a tweet thread. Tell me the most important moments in Philadelphia Phillies history. I need the top 8 most important moments. I'll seed them out. We're going to match them up. And then every episode, the second segment, we're going to do a head-to-head matchup where we debate through the 8 best moments, and we're going to run through each of the matchups, talk through it. I'm going to determine a winner. I can't just leave this up. You know what? I'm going to keep you on your toes. We'll decide when we get the 8 moments if we want to do voting or on Twitter and let you decide, or if you want to hear me flesh it out, we could do that too. We could do a combination of the two. So we'll talk through that. But right now, before that gets started, before we get into this, which will be Monday, we'll start that. And we go to, secret, I'll tell you that in the final segment of today's episode. But on Monday, I'll hopefully have all of your 8 segments, your 8 most important moments from you, and then we can rank them out bracket style. I'll have that all done. Nice little picture for it, to break it down so you can see it, and we'll go through that. So moments like, I don't know, The Brad Lidge strikeout and Harry Kalas' call of the Phillies winning the World Series in 2008. Of course, the Phillies winning the World Series back in 80. The stuff going on, they had some World Series back in the day as like the A's and stuff like that. That could be a moment. There could be big home runs. There could be, I don't know, bringing certain players here, big signing, stuff like that. There's plenty of stuff out there. I don't want to just straight up say all the moments. I want them to come out organically. But there are a lot of great moments in the long history of this team, even though the history hasn't been great over the past decade. And this will be a fun exercise to also look back on some of those good times and hopefully mean that there's some good times on the horizon. Also, of course, we'll have breaking news on free agents and everything. So the bracket may not take up the entirety of every second segment. I don't want you to just skip through thinking, oh, it's just bracket. Oh, he's just going to talk through these two matchups. Even though it will be awesome content, we're going to have some additional stuff. If there's like a blowout, like a 1 seed against an 8, where it's like a World Series victory against like a big home run in May, there's going to be a difference there. Now, we only have 8, so they should all be huge. But that's what we're going to run through. We're going to figure that out. And hey, hopefully it'll inspire the Phillies to have a huge moment for us this year that maybe is in next year's March Madness bracket that we put through. Maybe deserves to be in one of those top moments for generations of the future. You never know. Stranger things have happened. You think back to that 93 team and what they did. Runs can happen out of nowhere. So you never know. What's going to be big for the runs this year, if they do happen, is going to be some young prospects coming up. And that leads me in perfectly. I want to remind you to take a listen to Locked On MLB Prospects. Now, of course, I always want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. But check out Locked On Prospects. Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia. He's awesome. He knows everything about every minor league player, draftable player. He knows college players, high school guys. He's got his ear down to the ground of prospects, and he's doing a deep dive on all of these guys. We did a nice crossover a couple weeks ago. He was awesome. It was like he's so knowledgeable, even about the Phillies not being his team. He knows every team inside and out. So go ahead and check out Locked On MLB Prospects, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Coming up next, our final segment on this St. Patrick's Day episode, we got a very, very Irish-themed Mount Rushmore, where we jump in, and I'm going to rank my personal list of top 4 greatest Irish Philadelphia Phillies of all time. There are actually some really, really good ones. A couple Hall of Famers on this list. Can you believe it? Well, I guess Irish folks can really play baseball. Messing with the potatoes and everything. Maybe they chuck it around and throw BP with the potatoes back in the day, and that's how the potato famine started. I don't know. That's some crazy side topic genre that I'm not going into. But we've got that coming up. It should be fun. And this is, of course, stepping off, where we step outside the lines of baseball, take a little break from the X's and O's and everything like that, the lineups, what the team's going to look like this year, and just take a little midweek deep breath. You know, you got to rest. It's a national holiday. Wait, I think St. Patrick's Day is a national holiday. Yeah. When we don't get off work. Another tangent. My brain's all over the place today. We'll get into that as we wrap up in just a second. So let me tell you about my friends over at Rock Auto, because this episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. And why? Well, because they're the best place to get any parts you need for your car, your truck, your vehicle. There's a bunch of new makes and models coming out every year. Stuff's always increasing. I couldn't name you all the new cars that have come out in the past couple of years, but Rock Auto can, and they've got all the parts that you need for the repairs and upkeep on those vehicles. The best part, they're cheaper, they're faster than the regular in-person store that you're used to using. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto. So why choose to spend 30%, 50%, sometimes even 100% markup when you go to those regular brick and mortar stores? You could save all of that money if you just go to Rock Auto. And it's easier. It's online. It's right in your pocket. It's on your phone. It's on your laptop. I could just switch. I could cut right out of this episode and go right over to another tab. Now, I wouldn't do that to you. I love you guys. But you could do that and check in and have new parts delivered to you right at your doorstep. They're awesome. And Rock Auto is awesome because they're a family business. They get it. They're down to earth. They've been a family business serving guys like you, girls like you, do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. It's awesome. And their prices have been reliably low the whole time. You know what you get when you go to Rock Auto. It's consistency. It's ease. It's just, this is how car part buying should be done. in the modern day. They're great. So I want you to go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Make sure you write locked on their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you in. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. That's Rock Auto. All right, it's time, the St. Patrick's Day segment where we go through and we break down in stepping off, and we're doing a little Irish step. Is it called an Irish step, an Irish jig? I don't know. I'm all off on these Irish tangents today. Sorry about that. But we do stepping off, which is where we step outside the lines of baseball. And we have a fun little side topic that takes you away from the actual statistics of the game, things like that, and the management of the game. And this is if the show was game day, this is the clubhouse after a big win. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be light. It's supposed to be a good time that makes you forget about the game and just enjoy a little bit of time with the banter surrounding baseball. And today, we're listing out the Mount Rushmore. So that's the top 4, the best Irish baseball players in Philadelphia Phillies history. So let's jump right into it, starting with number 4. And I ranked these in order. There is a pretty easy order to put them in. This guy's Irish Musial. His name's literally Irish. And that's about all that's Irish about him. Okay, so he's actually German. And technically, I know I'm cheating right off the bat on the first pick, but come on. He chose his nickname to be Irish, or it was chosen for him. Either way, that's enough Irish in my book. He was a left fielder back in the early 1900s. So he played for the Phillies, 1918 to 1921. He actually got some MVP votes later in his career as a member of the New York Giants. And he went ahead, MVP, he was 12th in MVP voting in 1925. So there you go. You get MVP votes, you're a pretty good Irish baseball player. Let's look at some of his career numbers. He was a .310 hitter over the course of his career, 1,500 hits, so made it about halfway to that 3,000 mark, and he had 100 home runs. Just a nice, solid player. Apparently, he was incredible defensively, a very good defensive outfielder. I wouldn't hate the Phillies having Irish Musial on today's team. Probably can't stand up to the modern game, but you know what I mean. They need some help in left field. So if Nick Castellanos falls out, maybe Irish Musial is their replacement. He's number 4 on Mount Rushmore. He'd be on the far right. I don't know if the presidents are actually lined up in that order. But anyway, now in third place, I almost said second in order, but third place, his son is more famous than him, and he's the only one on this list that you could say that for. I'm going with Tug McGraw, the closer for those 1980s time Phillies, who, of course, had the final pitch in the World Series win for the Phillies in 1980. Went ahead and took care of that, the first in the modern era for this Philadelphia Phillies team. He's the final call there, just like Brad Lidge was the final call in 2008. Tug McGraw was solid for the Phillies. He's a folk legend from that day forward because of what he did. And his son is a folk music or country music legend in Tim McGraw. That's who I was referring to when I said his son is more famous than him. But Tug McGraw, of course, McGraw, that's an Irish name. I don't really think of him as Irish. I don't know why. But the MC, the dead giveaway, a solid pitcher. And he's more here, less for the career accolades, but more for the moment. When you have that guy be the final pitch of the World Series championship, he's got to be on the list. So there's Tug McGraw at number 3. Here's where we get to the 2 titans of this list. In second place, trailing only one man, we're going to go with Ed Delahanty. Ed Delahanty is a baseball Hall of Famer. He had an incredible career back before electricity. No, and not that long ago. But he was born way back in 1867 is what Baseball Reference is telling me. Played from 1888, finished his career in 1903. So the turn of the 20th century there. He played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wow, 13 years in Philadelphia. He batted .346 for his career. Do you understand how crazy that is? I get it was back in the days where there were guys that could hit in the high 300s, that could push 400 in certain seasons. Let me see if he ever cleared 400 in any seasons. But it was back in the day where the pitching was obviously way less lethal than what it was. Yeah, he cleared 400 1, 2, 3 times in his career. That's just a bona fide great hitter. Playing first and second base, mainly a second baseman, a middle infielder for those early Phillies teams. Ed Delahanty, when you have your plaque in Cooperstown, you're going to be on the Mount Rushmore of Irish baseball players for the Phillies. He won the batting title 2 times, no doubt, in those seasons where he cleared 400 in the batting average. Well, actually, he won the batting title. That's funny. He cleared 400 3 times in his career. Only one of those times he won the batting title. He also won it in 1902 when he batted 376 as a member of Washington for the Washington Senators, that they were called back in that day. But Ed Delahanty, a Hall of Famer, a great hitter, one of the better contact hitters in Phillies history. He's way back when, but of course he absolutely deserves to be on there. Now this final one. People are going to be mad at me for it because he's not technically a Philadelphia Philly. Well, he was a longtime manager of the Philadelphia Athletics before they went out there to Oakland. And of course, his name is Connie Mack. Now, I didn't know this. This is bad on me. I don't know if this is common knowledge. But Connie Mack, not the given name, Connie Mack, short for Cornelius McGillicuddy, which, yeah, you can't get much more Irish than that. I don't know if Cornelius is Irish, but McGillicuddy, that's a great last name. Connie Mack, one of the great managers in the history of the game, of course, had a stadium named after him that was played in for a long time here in Philadelphia. Connie Mack, a great manager. I don't need to give you his resume. If you're a Philadelphia Phillies fan, you know that he was an incredible Hall of Fame manager, one of the greats to ever do it. It was back in the day, so very few people around, if any, still saw his career go on. Well, there are people still around, but none of like the younger or the couple younger generations got a chance to see or hear about this guy manage. But of course, we got to give him his props as one of the greatest managers of all time and one of the names that have just always been associated with Phillies baseball throughout the years, even if he didn't play or manage for the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm doing a little bit of editorializing and making him an honorary Philly for the day, just for St. Patrick's Day. So let's run through that list again. We've got Irish Musial, who wasn't really Irish, Tug McGraw, who his son's probably a little bit more famous, but will always have that last pitch in 1980 to win the World Series. We have Ed Delahanty, the Hall of Fame second baseman, one of the great hitters in the history of the franchise, and Connie Mack, who's an honorary Philly, but the great longtime manager of the Philadelphia Athletics. And there you have it, the 4 best Irish baseball players or managers to ever spend time here in Philadelphia. I don't know if the Phillies have any great Irishmen in their farm system. They don't really have that many great players in their farm system, so who knows? But we'll go ahead and keep an eye out for the next ones that could possibly break their way onto that mountain that'll need their face carved in ahead of Irish Musial, and maybe we could get an actual Irish person on there to take the spot of the German man there. But that was a fun little exercise. I like looking back at the history, giving some props to some of those guys, and looking at the niche categories around the Phillies, like best Irish baseball player to ever put on the red pinstripes, or for Connie Mack's case, manage in this city. That was a fun episode. This was really fun. Maybe tomorrow's will be even more fun because we'll get some breaking news about Nick Castellanos. But even if we don't, we've got some great stuff for you tomorrow. We've got the closer where we're going to wrap up everything and set up the off the poll segment for the following week. I'm going to have that poll question for you tomorrow. We'll start talking through a little bit more with our bracket and the best 8 moments, but we won't have all of those set by tomorrow. They'll be all good to go by Monday. And then in the opening segment, we're going to take a look at where the Phillies stand and what they still need in free agency. I know I've been doing the free agent spotlights, but we're going to talk about the specific points of need that need to be filled by position. So circling some holes in the roster. That'll get bumped back to the second segment if Nick Castellanos is a Philadelphia Philly by the time that I'm recording tomorrow's episode. So that'll all be fun. I cannot wait to get into that with you guys. That's all we've got for today, though. Again, a very fun episode. One more thing I want to tell you about, though. I want to make sure that I thank you again for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. But next, I want you to make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, make sure you call him Sully. He's just, I know I said Lindsey Crosby's an encyclopedia of prospect knowledge. Well, Sully's the same way for baseball in general. He knows the history of the game. He could have told you Ed Delahanty's middle name and where he was born and how tall he was. He knows all this stuff. It's great. He could go way back in the day. He could talk about the modern game. He's got everything that you need to jump in. And he's breaking down the game inside and out. So go ahead and give Locked On MLB a listen. It's a great show. I highly recommend it. That's all the time I've got for you today, and I will speak to you all tomorrow.